Hey guys, Mother Beverly here. So I want to discuss Canada 150 because, as somebody who is the descendant of the Mi'kmaq people from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, some areas of Quebec, I believe it was, and I think PEI was also included, but I'll have to double check the maps because it's been a while since I looked at one. Regardless, celebrating Canada 150 for some of us is celebrating death. It is celebrating blood. It is celebrating genocide. Now, people want to be like, well, I don't understand. Like, at least this is not Lebanon. This is not Syria. Are you serious right now? I understand that there are issues in Lebanon and Syria, and some of you feel safer here than you do in said nations, but that does not make it safe for all of us. That does not make it right. I say to these people, sure, those countries are in the middle of a lot of chaos right now. But these same people also talk about how they miss these countries. It's because there is a cultural aspect. Being within your people, your story, your truth, your land is a gift and a privilege that some of us don't have. You can always talk about the land that you have back home, and if anything calms down, when you go back, your culture's still going to be there. There might be some disasters, like, I know that ISIS has been destroying, like, artifacts, like ancient historical artifacts. But those are just some of the stories lost. There are still so many more. Then they say to me, if you don't like it, why don't you move? Where am I supposed to go? My people are here. They've been here. They bled here, they lived here, they raised their children here, and they were tortured here. This is our land. Where am I supposed to go? People don't know about the residential schools. They don't know about the Saskatoon freezing deaths. The people starving up north. Loretta Saunders going missing after she started studying Indigenous women going missing. It is dangerous for us. Halifax can name all the fairies they want after Mi'kmaq leaders and icons and artists. But while Cornwallis still stands tall in this city as a statue, it is meaningless. It is simply a tokenization so they can point to it and pretend things have gotten better. They have not gotten better. There is a reason why Native people have half the life expectancy of everyone else in this country. There is a reason why suicide is an epidemic for the Native community, and some reserves can even see up to 11 suicide attempts in one weekend. Check it out. It happened in Ontario. Like, it happens. There's a reason why the people up north are starving. A $2 box of pasta from down here is $21 up there. And then people were like, well, it's the price of shipping. So we come up with a different solution that isn't shipping. Are you serious right now? Like, why are we giving subtleties to, like, we're helping out American corporations come into our country. Nestle is definitely underpaying us for all the water they want to take from British Columbia, putting those people in a drought. Those people, the residents, can't drink their own water because it's a drought situation, and Nestle's still pumping out millions of liters a day. Are you kidding me? Like, that was last year, if my memory serves me right, and if not, it was the year before. But it was within the last couple of years. British Columbia was in a drought. Nestle's still taking the water. Perhaps, if we actually, charged these corporations fairly for what our population needs, we might be able to build sustainable greenhouses up north so those people could have farms. We wouldn't need to worry about shipping anymore. Of course, I'm just like a sociology student, so I don't know the financial aspect of it, and I can't really get into how you would engineer it. But there are people out there who can do this. It's not like we don't have the technology. It's not like we don't build things in Arctic climates all the time. It is not like we don't have people in space. We don't. How is it, like, easier for us to get them food than the people up north? Those people are on Earth. Well, it's the snow, it's the ice, why can't we come up with something else? Why can't we come up with something better? Holy crap, you wouldn't even have to worry about refrigeration system. All you really need to do is build a staircase down into the basement of the ice. You can come up with solutions. You can even just build it inside and then have them go out and fucking break ice off of stuff to bring in, so you would have a refrigeration unit. So they'd be able to keep food for extended periods. And then the communities, like, they could be working on the greenhouses to support themselves sustainably, and all we would really need is a discussion once a year to understand what is the supply and demand that is required. And realistically, it doesn't take that much to send some seeds and some lights. There is no reason why we couldn't even be giving people equipment to be gardening inside their own house. There's no reason why we couldn't set up community resources for this. There are so many things that we could be doing. It's not like it's impossible. We just haven't put the time and the effort into it. And then we want to sit here and wonder why Indigenous people in this country feel like they are neglected. Our people are starving. They're fucking watching their kids starve. They're begging us for Mr. Noodles, like being thankful in pictures, being like, thank God I got food. People are sending them toothbrushes, soap, basic stuff. When there are answers in this world, it is not like the knowledge is not out there. To celebrate Canada 150 is to celebrate broken treaties. It is to celebrate death. It is to celebrate them trying to take the savage out of the native. It is. And people want to tell me it's history. Sure, aspects of it, the part that gives what happens today the real meaning came from history. But it is happening today. We are watching it happen. Now, I am very well aware, because I am also part Black, of the struggles that Black people go through, but the same thing is that they had their right to vote before we did. Their civil rights movement realistically started in like the 1960s, and they've built quite the platform. No, I'm not meaning any offense. I definitely understand the hard work that it goes into that, but you need to also understand that this means that there are still groups of minorities struggling for a voice. We don't have a platform. When we go and we do protests in our cities, white supremacists show up. It happened in Halifax. We're the lazy natives because we don't subscribe to the way of life that the Europeans decided was more valuable. Eurocentric ideals. Eurocentric because it comes from cultures within Europe. We had our own way of life. You are acting as if we were struggling before you came here. Do you not realize how many treaties were in between tribes? People want to talk about the tribes that fought the wars. They would forget about the part where we came to understandings. We divided the land. And despite a few spats here and there, most of us were okay. We were good. We were all right with the French coming. You know, because the French, they weren't perfect. But they danced with us, they engaged in our culture, and they accepted us. But when the British came, they didn't like either of us here. The French had le grand déportement when they took all the Acadians they could find and sent them on random ships. That is the reason why so many French people hid amongst native people. It is how Métis people came. They are part French, part native. Perhaps the intricate system of hate socially has been dismantled. However, as long as it remains politically, we have a problem. We need to stop burying our heads in the sand. Stop pretending like people aren't struggling in our country. We need to stop pretending like things are all hunky-dory for the rest of us. And we want to sit here and we want to talk about the money that we give the natives. Do you not understand what affirmative action is? It is because for generations, white people have had enough time to build up their families' financial background. They had houses, they had land, they could sell it, they could give it to their children, and that was a huge way of passing down intergenerational wealth. Native people couldn't own land. Black people couldn't own land for a long time. And when the Black Loyalists came, they gave them the crappiest land. Let's not even act like they gave us a fair right to be here. They didn't even give us an equal chance. Then they take the natives and they put them outside of towns. Some of these reserves still don't have water. They don't have roads. There are people in our country living in third world conditions, but Canada wants to act like we're one of the best countries in the world and then follows the United States and other countries to tell them that our way of life is better and then force it down their throats as if democracy is the only solution. As if there hasn't been other systems that have worked for people throughout history. As if the rest of us don't know what we need. As if we don't know ourselves. As if we don't know our people. As if we don't know what works for us and what doesn't. They just want to tell us it works. So then they get to sit there on the international stage as one of the most admired countries. Oh, Canada, you're so great. Like, why are you guys so, like, amazingly nice? Well, people are starving. People are dying. People going missing. Highway of Tears. Residential schools. Starving people up north. Like, come on. Do you know why so many natives are drunk? Do you know why alcohol originally was given to natives? The fire water was given to natives because they specifically were trying to kill them off. Another attempt at killing us all off. And you know what? If you're brokenhearted enough, the temporary solution of being out of your own mind is sometimes enough relief. So people cling to it. They clung through history to alcohol and all the other drugs that they gave to us to watch us break apart. Then they took our children. They allowed priests and nuns to treat our children like crap, unregulated, so our kids would be starving. Our kids would be raped. Our kids would be tortured. Our kids would be locked up for extended periods by themselves in isolation. Things we don't even do to criminals. Kids would be forced to kneel, holding their tongue for hours simply because they didn't understand English and French enough to ask us basic questions. So they asked the person sitting next to them in a language that they understood and that they knew that person understood. They were told it wasn't God's language. Then they were raped by priests. These kids were being fed porridge so foul that most of these kids wouldn't eat when they first came in. Look at We Were Children, literally. Like, she talks about how they would be smuggling food because the priests and the nuns would be eating fresh fruits and vegetables that they had these children garden. And these kids are eating porridge. Like, they can't even keep down, begging for fresh fruit and vegetables like what their people eat. And if anyone questioned the system or challenged them on the treatment of these children, they were cut off. They were sent away. Nuns who got tired of watching priests rape little boys in the middle of the night and touching on the little girls speak up, and then they got sent away. So there was no protection for these children. These people then got sent into the world at 18 with no care for the trauma that they had gone through. They were just kind of left to their own devices, and some of them tried to keep up with this whole Christian ideal bullshit that was shoved down their throat, while others instead chose methods such as suicide. You can't send broken people into the world and think that they are going to be fine. That is how the systems of violence have started within minority communities. Because instead of these people being able to understand how they should be treating their children, they think that they are doing their children a service by imitating the behavior that was taught to them through their childhood, because they have no other experience to tell them it is wrong. To them, that is the way the world is. So then they went and they took their children and they abused their children in the same way that they were abused. They didn't know any better, because it's called the process of normalization, which means to them, this was what's normal. They didn't understand that there are children in this world who were getting more hugs than kicks. They didn't understand that there were kids who never even had to think about being sexually assaulted or how they were going to escape. So then their kids get hurt. Their kids deal with their own trauma that is now inflicted onto them. And you know what? Considering how long the residential schools went on, Some of these kids would also be going into residential schools, so they would live with their parents up till a certain age, be abused because their parents thought they were doing them a favor, and then get shoved into residential schools. How can we understand war veterans and their post-traumatic stress disorder? Something they knew was a possibility and they went in anyways. But we cannot understand children who didn't get a chance at being normal. So affirmative action is meant to equalize this discrimination that remains after these systems have lost the right wording to be considered racist. They're still the same systems. They just changed the wording. Like, it is meant to speed up the process because otherwise it takes multiple generations for us to get the same wealth that white populations have. Anyways, do your research. Look into Native causes. Look into academic writers like Bonita Lawrence. And then come back and talk to me about what our people should do. Because honest to God, if you're sitting here and you're telling me that we should just get over it, I'm telling you that you are naive. You are ignorant on what it is like to live in such a reality. Because I honestly do not believe that we are the only ones who would react like this. And it is proven by other nations. How can I sit down with somebody from India and I can literally say to them my whole family story and they get it because they understand what it's like to have the British come in and try to take everything over? We're not the only ones. We are not invalid. We're entirely justified. Anyways, Mother Beverly out.